Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Good afternoon, everyone. Over the past few weeks, I've spent time in neighborhoods across our city meeting with residents who are continuing to recover from the July 1st storm. It continues to be a long road for these residents, and I've witnessed both great hardship and incredible resilience. I've also seen our community at its best, with neighbors helping neighbors and volunteers rising to the occasion. De nombreuses familles vont devoir faire face à des mois
Many
difficiles.
families are going to
Many
face some difficult
families
months
are having
ahead.
some tough months ahead, rebuilding their basements, replacing their furnaces, replacing other items that they've lost, and navigating complicated insurance claims. I want to reiterate that we are here with residents every step of the way, whatever it takes, and as long as it takes. We've been working every day to connect people with the support they need, and we've also been advocating on their behalf. J'ai communiqué avec les gouvernements
I have
fédéral
been
et
in contact with the
provincial
federal and
au
provincial
sujet des
governments regarding
difficultés
the
auxquelles les
challenges that
résidents
residents
continuent
continue
de
to
faire face.
face.
I've connected with both the federal and provincial governments about the challenges that residents continue to face. I've been advocating for more provincial support. We will continue fighting on behalf of residents for every available resource to help people recover. That includes legal resources as they deal with their insurance claims. I also want to take a minute to sincerely thank the Canadian Red Cross who are here with us today. Conrad, thank you to you and your incredible team. I don't think I have to tell you how great your team is, but we've been learning that here in Ottawa as a result of the work they've been doing. The partnership that we struck has been a great help. The team has been extraordinary. I recently spent time with Amy and Katie on the ground and at Ben Franklin Place and with other volunteers as we delivered care packages to residents. And what struck me most wasn't just the supplies they were delivering or the resources they were offering, it was the compassion that they showed. Their employees and volunteers took the time to listen, to answer questions, and to reassure people that they were not alone. I've heard a lot of great feedback about the many organizations and volunteers who have stepped up to help residents. So on behalf of those residents, on behalf of the people of Ottawa, I want to say thank you. Merci au nom de tous les résidents, aux
Thank you
équipes
on behalf of
d'Habitat
all
pour
of the residents,
l'humanité de la
the
Grande
teams,
Région de
Habitat
l'Ottawa,
for
to
Humanity in the
Matthew
Greater
House of
Ottawa.
Ottawa,
Thank you to
to
Matthew Ottawa
Samaritan's
House.
Purse, to
Thank you
Mennonite
to
Disaster
Samaritan's
Services,
Purse,
and
to
aux
Mennonite Disaster
organisations
Services,
humanitaires
and to
qui ont
community
œuvré
organizations.
et
Thank you to
avec
volunteers
excellence
and
pour se
everyone
mobiliser
who
pour
has stepped
aider
up
leurs voisins
to help their
traverser
neighbors
cette
get
période
through this difficult
difficile.
time.
I want to make sure our residents are taking full advantage of all the resources that are available to them. If you are still recovering, you don't have to do it alone. Je veux m'assurer que les résidents profitent pleinement de
I
toutes les
want to ensure
ressources
that
mises à
residents
leur
are taking full
disposition.
advantage of
Si
all
vous êtes
resources available to
toujours
them. If
en
you are
ligne
still
pour vous
recovering
remettre des conséquences de
from
la
the
tempête,
effects of the
sachez
storm,
que vous n'avez pas à
please know
passer cette
that you do not
épreuve
have to
seul.
go through this alone.
Call or email the Red Cross. Tell them what you're experiencing. Tell them what you need. That's why we brought them in to help. Even if we can't solve every problem on our own, we will help connect you with the organizations and supports that can. I also want to encourage residents to visit the city's website to tap into several support programs that are there to help, including the Compassionate Grant Program, which provides $1,000 per impacted household. The Residential Protective Plumbing Program, which provides financial support for homeowners to install backflow valves and sump pumps. This will ensure they're protecting their homes for future events. In a moment, members of our senior leadership team will provide updates on the next phase of recovery, including upcoming recovery information sessions, support available through the Canadian Red Cross, and other resources for residents. But before I turn it over to them, again, I want to leave residents with one very important message. We know this recovery is far from over. We know many families still have a long road ahead. The City of Ottawa will continue doing everything we can to support residents, to advocate on your behalf, and to help your community recover, no matter how long it takes. Thank you. Merci. I'll now invite Pierre Poirier, our Chief of Paramedics, to provide an update on recovery operations and support for residents on behalf of our emergency services team. Pierre?
Before I begin, I'd like to thank the Mayor for his support throughout this response and Council for their continued guidance, advocacy, and support for our residents. Your ongoing feedback, updates, and advocacy for your constituents have helped shape our response and recovery efforts every step of the way. As the Mayor has outlined, our focus today is no longer on the emergency response itself, it's on the recovery. Nous sommes maintenant dans une phase de rétablissement.
We are now in a phase of recovery.
Our objective is clear: to ensure residents have the information, supports, and access to the services they need to recover safely and as quickly as possible. Since July 1st, collectively, city staff, community organizations, and volunteers have worked collaboratively to support our residents affected by the extreme weather event. To date, the city has received nearly 7,800 storm-related service requests, including more than 6,600 reports of basement flooding. To put in context the size and the scope of this extreme event, more than 38 tons of storm debris have been removed from the impacted neighborhoods, and almost 7,000 wellness visits have been completed by St. John Ambulance, the Ottawa Valley Search and Rescue, and the Ottawa Fire Services. I want to acknowledge the very real challenges many Ottawa residents have faced over the past 3 weeks. The disruption and hardship have been considerable, and for some, the recovery is far from over. Residents have come together to support one another with compassion, patience, and determination. I also want to recognize the dedication of city staff across every department. Their professionalism and commitment have made a meaningful difference in the lives of our residents. Recovery is a team effort. As we transition from the response to the recovery, our focus is shifting towards helping residents access the support they need. The city continues to operate its Emergency Coordination Centre. Organizations such as the Canadian Red Cross, St. John Ambulance, Ottawa Valley Search and Rescue, Samaritan's Purse, Matthew House, Habitat for Humanity Greater Ottawa, and many other local organizations continue to play an essential role in helping our residents recover. Our recovery information sessions also play a central role in this effort. Nearly 1,600 residents have attended these sessions to date, where they can meet directly with city staff and partner organizations to receive practical guidance and assistance. Cet exemple démontre la valeur d'une
This
approche
example
coordonnée.
shows the value of a coordinated approach.
Contributes its expertise to support residents throughout the recovery process. The province has activated the Disaster Recovery Assistance for Ontarians program for an area of Ottawa. The city has formally requested that the province review the current activation boundaries to better reflect the extent of the impacts from the July 1st storm. While the province determines the eligibility under its program criteria, we have provided additional information to support this request because we know significant impacts occurred beyond the current activation area. Residents in the current activation area are encouraged to review the program details on the province's website to understand what expenses may be eligible for assistance. While the program may provide financial support to eligible applicants, eligibility criteria are limited, and funding is only available for approved expenses related to cleanup, repair, replacement of essential property, and basic emergency needs. A list of eligible expenses and applicable funding caps is available on the program website. Residents should note that the DRAO program is not intended to replace insurance coverage and may not cover all costs associated with the damage or recovery. Applicants should review the program requirements carefully to understand what support may be available before applying. We will continue working closely with the province and keep residents informed of what progress we make. We understand that the DRA program does not result in large payouts to a large number of residents. We also know that financial payouts have often been for very small amounts. We will continue to work with the province and advocate for the expanded area of activation. Our recovery efforts continue to evolve. In addition to debris removal and information sessions, we have introduced new supports, including a furniture assistance initiative in partnership with Matthew House, Ottawa, and Habitat for Humanity Greater Ottawa. And we will continue to identify additional ways to help residents navigate the recovery process. Looking ahead, our priorities remain clear. Continue supporting impacted residents through accessible recovery services and information, and continue to work with the Mayor, our members of council, and our provincial and community partners. Finally, I'd like to again thank our community partners for everything they have done and continue to do for Ottawa residents. It's now my pleasure to introduce Karina Duclos, Director of Infrastructure and Water Services, who will provide an update on infrastructure impacts, ongoing restoration work, and the city's effort to strengthen resilience for the future. Merci.
Thank you, Pierre. I want to first acknowledge the very real impact this extreme weather event continues to have on residents, businesses, and communities across Ottawa. Many residents are still dealing with damage to their properties, significant disruption, and extended cleanup efforts. We remain committed to supporting the communities through this recovery. Since the weather event, city staff has been conducting inspections of stormwater infrastructure in the affected areas and are making significant progress. Our crews are assessing key assets, documenting impacts, and addressing operational issues where required. Staff are conducting inspections and technical analysis to support both immediate operational actions and long-term review. This work helps us identify maintenance and operational needs and will contribute to determining opportunities to enhance resiliency. Gathering this data is critical to support the city's comprehensive review and future recommendations. This will take some time. Over the coming month, we will continue reviewing rainfall data, service requests, infrastructure performance, drainage systems, maintenance records, watershed conditions, and community impacts across the city. We will review both citywide and neighborhood-specific factors to best understand how this event unfolded and where opportunities to improvement exist. We are committed to keeping council and residents informed as work progresses. Findings will be shared as they are assessed and validated, and we will identify practical measures to improve resiliency across the city. While the broader review is ongoing, recovery efforts continue. City staff continues to support residents through recovery information sessions, application clinics, and one-on-one assistance with grant applications. We know that residents are looking for practical information, support, guidance as they move through recovery. Those concerns are being heard and continue to inform the resources, programs, and assistance the city is providing. To date, the city has received more than 6,600 reports of basement flooding. City staff continue to review these reports and provide information and resources to residents. If you were affected and have not reported yet, please do so. Reporting helps the City of Ottawa connect you with available resources and information, but also help us understand and analyze the extent of the storm impact. The reporting is very valuable information for our analysis. We would like to remind affected residents that they may be eligible for assistance through our Compassionate Grant Program and Residential Protected Plumbing Program. We encourage residents to apply to both. Please visit ottawa.ca for more information. I want to highlight that you must apply for each program separately, in addition to reporting your flooded basement to 311. The Compassionate Grant Program provides financial assistance to eligible residents and tenants who have experienced significant basement flooding because of sewer surcharge events. Both the property owner and the tenant at the same address may apply for assistance. To date, 1,679 applications have been received for this program, and 824 have been approved so far. Staff is working hard through processing the rest as quickly as possible. City staff has also added one-on-one grant application support at the ongoing recovery information sessions. This service continues on the second floor of Ben Franklin Place today from 2 to 6 p.m. and tomorrow from 10 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. For anyone that has questions about the grant or need assistance completing those applications. If you are not sure if you are eligible or do not have all the required documentation, we encourage you to submit your application anyway. We will work with you to complete the applications and review any missing information. The Residential Protected Plumbing Program helps homeowners invest in measures that can reduce risk of flood in the future. Through rebates for eligible installations, such as sump pumps and backwater valves, the program supports property-level resilience and helps residents better prepare for future extreme weather events. We recognize that residents want to know if the protected plumbing program they are looking to do in their homes will be approved for the rebate before going ahead with the work. If they have questions about what is covered, they can reach us at theprotectedplumbing@ottawa.ca to have questions answered. I want to close by recognizing that recovery remains challenging for many residents and businesses. We hear your concerns. We remain committed to supporting those affected, and we will continue working to strengthen Ottawa resilience to the future. Thank you to residents, elected officials, community partners, and city staff for the ongoing patience, cooperation, and efforts. I will turn now over to Conrad Sauvé to provide an update on behalf of the Canadian Red Cross.
Merci, Karina. Thank you. Bonjour, welcome. First of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Sutcliffe, Ottawa City Councillors, city staff, and those who have been involved in the response to the flooding of July 1st. We really appreciate how challenging things are for many of the families that have been impacted. And the Canadian Red Cross is proud to be here to support residents. Thanks to a
new partnership with the City of Ottawa that was launched 1 week ago, the Red Cross has launched new supports so that families and families in need can have access to support and get help in the recovery stage and can begin the process of reconstruction in safety.
Thanks to a new partnership with the City of Ottawa that was initiated 1 week ago, the Canadian Red Cross has launched new recovery services for impacted individuals and families to access support, navigate recovery, and beginning the process of safely rebuilding. Now, over the past week, these efforts have included, for the Red Cross, reaching out to 5,700 households, mobilizing more than 150 Red Cross personnel, distributing cleanup kits and care kits, and providing in-person support at 17 City of Ottawa information sessions. We're currently working directly with more than 300 households that have reached out for more specific support. And we've heard from many impacted households that they're struggling to navigate insurance coverage. In many cases, they thought they were fully covered and are now learning otherwise. They're grappling with uncertainty on how to pursue their claims or if they qualify for provincial programs. This is why we're providing also a personalized recovery support to people impacted. Our case managers are working with residents to understand what resources and supports are available and provide referrals and information to help make decisions and inform next steps as they move through their recovery. Red Cross services are available to all residents impacted by the July 1st flooding, and we encourage residents to reach out to us for support and register the Red Cross if they've not already done so. Now, this is not, of course, unfortunately, the first recovery program that we're running at the Red Cross in the last number of years throughout Canada. And I want to say that we see in these situations sometimes people who feel that support is not for them, is for others, but we really encourage to reach out if you do need support. We're there for that main reason. The contact information, as we said, is available on our website, and our teams will continue to provide support to the City of Ottawa. The recovery process is going to be long, and there are many steps in this recovery, and people are impacted at different times as they journey through this response. And again, recovery services is not one meeting, it's supporting people in this journey. We've seen to date about 300 families reach out, over 300. This is about 5%. Our experience in the heavily impacted group often represents about 10%. So we're expecting about 600 families in the more heavily impacted caseload. But again, encourage people to reach out. We know the needs, again, through our experience supporting Canadians across the country, we know that recovery is often longer, more complex than anticipated. Unfortunately, disasters are on the rise in Canada, becoming more frequent and more complex. We need to ensure the focus remains on those who are impacted. The first moment gets all the attention. I think this is a larger issue, again, in the Canadian context, of course, impacting here. When we see disasters hitting, we focus a lot on the relief effort, on the immediate, which is important. We need to contain the event. We need to put out the fires. But we need to understand how these are impacting families and individuals, not in the short term, but on a long-term period. And this is an area, I think, that is becoming more and more important in Canada and for which we need to put more attention. To help the impacted families in Ottawa, the Red Cross has launched an appeal for donations. Individuals wishing to help support flood recovery efforts are encouraged to do so. Financial contributions. We know there are many gaps in the support systems that are going to be available. This is a new reality, and we're looking at the Red Cross to raise money and provide some assistance in this area. Every donation will help families as they continue the difficult work, cleaning up, rebuilding, and recovering. We know
that recovery is a process that takes time even after the water has receded. So the Red Cross is working with the City of Ottawa and its community partners to assist these people affected and to help them recover and to rebuild.
We know that recovery, as I mentioned, is a journey that continues long afterwards the floods. Actually, we're were present actually this week for the 2-year anniversary of the recovery process that happened after the fires in Jasper. So you see how long these processes are. The Canadian Red Cross remains committed to supporting affected residents and will work alongside the City of Ottawa and our community partners to help people recover and rebuild. Thank you. Now I'll pass it over to Linda.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. We'll now get started with today's media availability. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions des médias.
We'll now answer media questions. You have one question and a follow-up question.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for doing this. This can be directed to the mayor or Pierre, whoever is better positioned. You mentioned the provincial support, and when we contacted the province about the sort of limited activation area, their immediate response was that it was based on information provided by the city. So can you expand on that? What information did you or the city provide, and why was it such a small area when so many others were affected?
So look, I'll approach this from a couple of different angles. First of all, we've been providing them with as much information as possible from as early as possible. Of course, we are not providing limited information to the province of Ontario on this. We're providing them with a ton of information. We have made it clear from the start that the criteria for DREO are, in my opinion, too limited. I don't think a resident of Ottawa who is flooded through overland flooding or the water comes in from the drain in their basement, I don't think we should distinguish between them. I don't think they distinguish between themselves. They're all victims of the same event. And I don't think the provincial program should distinguish between those either. So I've been advocating to the province from the beginning to create a wider area and not to make a distinction between the different ways that people have been affected by this one major weather disaster. We'll see whether they adapt the program or increase the affected area, but it's certainly not from a lack of advocacy or a lack of information on our part. As Pierre indicated, I think we need to underscore to residents that when DREO has been applied in the past, the payouts have not been large. The total amount of payouts has not been large. The individual payouts have not been large. To give you an example, there was a storm a few years ago in the GTA, in Burlington and Toronto and other communities, where there were hundreds of millions of dollars paid out by the insurance company, and DREO paid out something like $500,000 to the affected residents. So again, I've been advocating for change. I've been advocating that given that these events are going to happen more often in the future, we need a provincial program that will support all residents affected by a major weather event without making distinctions based on how they were affected, which way the water came into their homes, because I don't think neighbors make those distinctions. I don't think the province should either. We'll continue to advocate, but I would encourage you to talk to the province about the program.
I should have said it off the top, but do you mind to respond to that question in French
Sure.
as well? I can ask it again, or?
Non, ça va. Alors, c'est important de souligner que
it is important to highlight that this is a provincial government program, and therefore these questions need to be directed to the provincial government. We have given the provincial government many details, a lot of data, so that they can make a decision for the residents of Ottawa. For a few years ago, actually, there was an event in the region of Toronto, and the insurance companies did pay out some hundreds of thousands of dollars. Through the DREO program, the government only paid about $500,000 to the residents of Toronto, Burlington, and in the area. So that I believe it is time to review and revise this program to ensure that all residents who are affected by the storm of July 1st can have access to these funds from the provincial government. Residents of Ottawa and the City of Ottawa does not make a distinction between victims who are affected by this storm. We must support all victims. I have written to the Premier Board and Minister Flack, and I've spoken with them over the phone. I've asked the provincial government to review the criteria of this program because it is not enough for the time being.
Okay, and the follow is, Pierre mentioned, recognizing there's significant impact beyond the current area. I talked with folks who are just outside, for example, right? And pretty heartbreaking to hear that, they've been, maybe the province can provide some assistance and they're just outside. So can you be more specific about the areas you're looking at, or sort of the map you'd like to see if this map is insufficient? And sorry, in French as well, if you don't mind afterwards.
Thank you. The first map that was provided to the province was fairly restrictive and was a point at which we didn't understand the full scope of the event. And when we looked at the 6,600 residents who had were impacted by the flood, we recognized that it extended well beyond the original area that was activated. So we revisited that. We took a look at what the logic was to support our argument. And as the mayor has said, we don't necessarily know what is sewage versus what is riverine, what is also overland. And we've taken a more permissive view of that and provided the advocacy for our residents. And exactly for the reason that you mentioned, is that if you're across the street from an area and you were flooded as well, you may not be included. And we've never thought that was fair. And the advocacy from the mayor has been to change the rules, to be more inclusive, to support the residents across the city. So en français, c'est qu'il y a plus de 6,000 résidents.
More than 6,000 residents have been affected by the disaster from the event, extreme weather event of July 1st. And the geographic region was much too small. We conducted an evaluation of all of the criteria, and we wanted for all residents who were affected by the disaster be included for the DREO program. Thank you.
Merci. We'll now go to Arthur White-Kermy, CBC News.
This will be for the Red Cross, but possibly also for the mayor if you have something to add. You said that you've been hearing from people that have been arguing with their insurance companies and have been declined coverage. We've been hearing about this too. I'm wondering, of those 300 or more people you're dealing with, how common is that problem? And people that we're speaking to seem unaware of what other options they may have if they don't qualify for coverage. Can you explain what is available to them?
Actually, I'll invite Amy Avis, who's our head of operations at the Red Cross, is one of our experts in insurance as well, coverage. Answer that.
Sure. So of the 300 case files, 94% are insured. Of them, around 50% are having challenges with activating coverage. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that their claim has been determined. It just means that they're working through the process. And so that's why the case management appointments is so valuable and helpful. And in terms of what other supports could be available to them, this is why we want people to make the best decisions they can with the resources they have available. So we'll refer them to city programs, we'll refer them to DREO, but with the resources they have, we want to make sure that they're using those as effectively and efficiently as possible. And so that's where the Canadian Red Cross Services offers that support.
Oui, donc sur les sur le nombre de cas qu'on a.
With the
en
number
ce
of
moment, la
cases, well,
la majorité des
the Red
gens sont
Cross,
assurés, mais il y a
most
des
people
enjeux par
are
rapport à
insured,
ce que leurs assurances
but the question is what the insurance covers.
conseils que la Croix-Rouge fait aux
So there's
gens
advice
pour
that
naviguer
the Red Cross
sans-
is
Il y a
giving these
des
people on how to
secteurs
navigate
auxquels c'était pas
insurance.
couvert.
There are sectors that weren't covered, but all cases are individual.
Un rôle important pour la Croix-Rouge auprès des gens, c'est
But the Red Cross has an important role to help
le support
navigate
d'assurance, mais
people,
aussi leur éligibilité à d'autres programmes. Donc, dans le
and people may be
contexte qui existe
admissible
actuellement, on peut les
or eligible to other programs, and we're there to support
par leur situation.
them in their specific situation. So once again, we invite people
À nous appeler, à nous joindre,
to call
et
us,
on va
to
vous
contact
donner
us, and we'll be
ce
able
support.
to support them.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add, going forward, I think, first of all, everybody needs to take a close look at their insurance policies to see what they're covered for and what they're not. I've spoken to a couple of residents who thought they were covered and found out they weren't, didn't understand what they had purchased from their insurance company. I think there is also a bigger question going forward as these extreme weather events become more common because of climate change. We're going to see more and more a dynamic where insurance premiums are going up, especially if you want to be insured against flooding, and where residents are going to have to make a difficult choice between either taking the risk of not having coverage because they can't afford the premium, or and then they take the risk and then they end up not having coverage when a disastrous event occurs, or where people are able to pay the premium, but it keeps getting higher, and there's inequity in the insurance system where some people can afford the higher premiums and some people can't, and it's the people who are on lower incomes and the most disadvantaged in our community who can't afford proper insurance to cover these events. Because if they're happening more often, inevitably the premiums are going to go up because there will be more claims. So I think there's a policy question here for the federal and provincial governments going forward around how are we going to help residents protect themselves against catastrophic events that result from climate change if they're going to happen more often, because it may not be fair to simply leave it between them and their insurance company with rising premiums. Oui, OK, je vais essayer, mais si c'est avec l'échange climatique.
Given climate change, it is clear that these events will occur more frequently. It is therefore necessary to have a government policy, be it from the federal government or the provincial government, to protect residents. Insurance costs will increase, and residents will have to face difficult decisions. Either the insurance costs will be affordable for them or not. And if insurance increases, this poses a risk for residents. It is therefore necessary to have a policy in place to protect residents in this time of climate change.
This will be for the mayor and probably also Ms. Duclos. I'm just noting that most, though not all, of the areas that were most affected were in the old city. Sorry, I have a stutter, even though I live in the city of Nepean. And of course, it was under a separate city at the time that a lot of this infrastructure was built, and it suffered from previous natural disasters. I'm wondering if we yet have a sense of whether that infrastructure was sort of underbuilt for the situation that we're in right now. Is there something unique about the infrastructure in the old city of Nepean? Thanks.
So we're going to take a look at everything, neighborhood by neighborhood. We're going to look at all the systems we have. I'll let Karina speak to what, if anything, has been learned so far, but these are big, big decisions that we're going to be making going forward about how we protect residents, increase our resilience, make sure we're prepared for future major events like this. And so we don't want to be in a rush to judgment here. We want to make the right decisions going forward and have all the best available information. One thing that it may be possible that in different pre-amalgamation municipalities that different decisions were made. I would underline as well, though, that Nepean did receive, from what we understand, the most rainfall on that particular day. So other parts of the city didn't get as much rainfall as Nepean. So it may be the volume of rainfall, it may be the infrastructure, it may be a combination of the two. And that's what we're going to find out by doing an exhaustive neighborhood by neighborhood assessment of what happened on July the 1st and what we need to do to better protect residents in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're very correct. The city of Ottawa is built in different pieces because of pre-amalgamation. So there is definitely different level of infrastructure on the different neighborhoods, combined with a storm that was very unique, very localized in different areas. It will be very premature to associate a neighborhood with this particular event. We are looking at the entire city as a whole. We are also looking at the different neighborhoods, and we are doing an analysis also of the different reasons why people flood. Today, we don't know if it was a sewer backup, a creek flooding, or overland, or a combination of. It's a very complex storm with a very complex impact. We don't want to rush it. We are still collecting information. We are still getting reports from residents, which are absolutely critical for us to be able to assess the individualities of all those neighborhoods. Thank you. Can somebody do French? Yes.
Alors, nous sommes en train de faire un examen.
We are currently conducting an evaluation on the causes of the events of July 1st. This evaluation is very important and exhaustive. We must not make decisions too quickly. It is important, however, that we realize that there is different infrastructure in the different cities. And this was the case before 2001, when the city of Ottawa was composed of the 11 municipalities. What I would like to say to the residents of Ottawa is that we will indeed study all of the impacts of each neighborhood to determine the right solutions for these neighborhoods to ensure that we are ready for such events in the future.
Thank you. We'll now go to Natalie Van Roy, CTV.
Hello, this question is for the mayor, and switching gears a bit. Last week, the city revealed an ad campaign to encourage public servants to extend their time downtown this fall as thousands of more workers go back to the office, a minimum of 4 days a week. I've spoken to a number of public servants today who say it's not the responsibility of government workers to revive downtown restaurants after hours and that they find transit to be unreliable. What message do you have for these public servants, and why should workers stay downtown to boost the local economy? And these workers also mentioned that they need more faster, efficient transit to the suburbs as well.
I totally agree. It's not the responsibility of federal public servants to make downtown businesses financially viable. I also agree that we need better transit service for federal public servants who are going to the office and returning home at the end of the day. My wife is a federal public servant. My dad was a federal public servant. 3 or 4 other members of my immediate family were federal public servants. So I understand what life is like for federal public servants. They want to get home. They want to feed the dog or the cat. They want to pick up their kids at school or at daycare. They want to make dinner and get on with their evenings. I think there was understanding that there would be more people downtown. Naturally, if you're somebody running a BIA downtown, you're going to say, hey, if there's more people downtown, we're going to try to find reasons for them to stay and have dinner and go to a show or visit the National Arts Center, visit a gallery. I think that's inevitable that and perfectly understandable on the part of the BIAs. And we naturally are supporting the BIAs and encouraging them in their work. But that doesn't mean we're demanding federal public servants should stay downtown. We're doing nothing of the sort. We're communicating with them to let them know all of the measures that are being taken to make it easier to get to and from work. And on the subject of public transit, again, I agree, we need a better transit service. That's why we're increasing the frequency of Line 1. The double trains in September will be at a higher frequency than they've ever been since before COVID. We're adding express routes. We're amending and adjusting 30 other routes to serve people who are traveling to the downtown core to go to work and traveling home again at the end of the day. So Rick Leary and his team are doing everything they can to improve public transit in time for the expected growth in ridership in September, based on federal public servants spending a bit more time in the office, other employees of private companies or not-for-profit organizations spending more time in the office, and students returning to school. So there is a concerted effort to improve public transit for September, and in particular, to increase the frequency of Line 1 of LRT to a level that it has not been since before COVID.
Thank you. And a follow-up question about the storm. Many homeowners are asking, how do we know that this won't happen again? What can you tell them about the city's infrastructure, and have engineers identified any problems following the floods?
Again, to be clear, we know that because of climate change, these events are more and more likely to happen. So even though this event has been described as a once in 200 years event, or perhaps even more rare and severe than that, we need to be ready for another event like this in the future. That's why I've asked city staff to conduct an exhaustive neighborhood by neighborhood review of everything that happened on July the 1st, and to report back to City Council with the results of that work, and also recommendations on how we need to improve our infrastructure in the future to prevent this scope of flooding from taking place in our city again. And whatever we need to do, we will do in order to protect our residents from this kind of event in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. En français, la deuxième question? Oui. Alors, nous savons qu'avec les changements climatiques,
we know that with climate change, that events such as those that occurred on July 1st will be more frequent. And we must be ready for such events in the future. So I have asked our team, the city staff, to prepare an evaluation neighborhood by neighborhood to determine what occurred on July 1st, and then to propose solutions so that residents of Ottawa will not have to face such a situation again. Next time, we will need to be ready.
Nous, au tour maintenant de Eliane Doucet.
Eliane Doucet from Radio-Canada. My first question is about the tax exemption for property tax. How is that going to work? And are you sure it's going to be put in place? Exemptions for residents who are not at their house for more than 3 months. Well, I don't have all the details, but it is a current program with the City of Ottawa. Every time there's a family that is displaced because of such an event, well, there's a program in place to remove property taxes if they are not home for a period of 3 months or more. This is a current program. And residents must submit their application, but we will be ready to respond to all of these submissions. Thank you. And in English, please.
Yeah, my understanding is this is a program that exists at the City of Ottawa, that whenever a resident is displaced from their home for a period of more than 3 months because of something like a flooding event, that there's an opportunity for them to get a rebate on their taxes. And so we'll be ready to respond to any applications we receive and determine on a case-by-case basis who's eligible. Obviously, it hasn't been 3 months since July the 1st yet. It's only been 3 weeks. So it'll be a few months before we're receiving applications, but we'll be ready to respond to all of those applications.
Parfait. Ma deuxième question concerne la
Second
mort
question
de
is about,
Rahman Abdi, qui aujourd'hui, ça fait jour pour jour 10 ans qu'il est décédé.
it has been 10 years that
police d'Ottawa.
this person is
Et
dead.
comment vous sentez aujourd'hui?
How do you
Est-ce qu'il y a des
feel
leçons
today? And
sur
are
cette
there
police
lessons that you have learned from that event 10 years later? Firstly, this has been a tragic event. The community is thinking of Mr. Abdi and of his family. It is important to learn from this tragic event and to do more in the future. So we are continuing to work with the head of police and with their team to ensure the security of all residents in Ottawa. The police has made quite a bit of change. However, it is always necessary to do more. So I hope that the work will continue. In English, please.
Yeah, listen, that's a very, very tragic event that affected a lot of Ottawa residents, and I think a lot is still something that that many people think about. And Mr. Abdi and his family remain in our thoughts. And I think there are a number of important lessons that must be learned and have been learned from that event. And I think the police have done a number of things in the intervening period to improve how they do things to protect the safety of all of our residents, including the people that they're interacting with on a regular basis and the people that they're interacting with on a call like the one that took place 10 years ago. But there is always more work to do. And I know we have a police chief who is willing to do that hard work and a team at the Ottawa Police Service who are willing to do that. So we need to continue to improve to make sure that every resident of our city, including those who are interacting directly with the police, are safe.
Merci.
Merci à vous.
Nous allons terminer avec
We will
Philippe
finish
Bishop.
with Philippe Bishop from TVA. My question is for the mayor. You have had discussions with the government, the local government, and the government of Ontario, and there seems to be somewhat of an opening from the government's perspective. Do you believe that things could have been quicker if it was a smaller city? Because in Ottawa, there's a financial flexibility, and a smaller town in Ontario may not have that. Do you believe that the government of Ontario or the federal government might not want to invest too much? No one has indicated that Ottawa is too big to get support from the other government levels. So I'm not sure. Our city has limited resources, and therefore there are programs in place from the other government levels. And I don't believe that Ottawa is not eligible for these funds. Thank you.
C'était tout pour aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup. Thank you
That's
very
all for today. Thank you very much.